Good morning and welcome to Melbourne, Australia's second largest city, or by some accounts it might actually be the largest city now, depending on how you define city boundaries. Stay at the YHJ, so today will be the first full day exploring and seeing what we have to find. Had an absolute horrendous night. I will confidently say the Sydney YHJ definitely beats this one. The main reason I say that is not necessarily the condition of the building. I mean, this one's a bit more run down. The Sydney one had obviously been renovated and refurbished recently. This one in most areas had no functioning AC and the room was an absolute sauna. It's scorching at the moment. Like even overnight it barely cooled down. It's still warm, and today's going to be another scorcher. It's going to be cooler by 1 degree, still a top of 38. So yeah, it's going to be another one of those nights probably. Yeah, on top of that, my back is killing me. That mattress was not good whatsoever. So yeah, I only ended up getting a few hours sleep. I was tossing and turning till like 2 a.m. So I really got a few hours of fitful sleep. Walk around now while it's a little bit cooler, see a few sights. When it does get way too hot, I'll find somewhere to do things indoor, like check out museums, galleries, that sort of stuff. Leave more of the outdoor stuff for the next few days once it cools down. I do plan on hopefully going to some nature areas, some gardens, and even national parks close to the city, so I want to try to see if I can explore those. There's a sign for the Docklands. I'm going to walk over to the Docklands. Heard that's quite nice. Then I'll make my way to the train station and try to figure out how the public transport works. Investigate and see if we can get ourselves a card or ticket to use the public transport here, at least for like the next week. Wouldn't mind checking out the beach, going for a swim. It's definitely will be the day for that. One way in which Melbourne definitely does one up Sydney is that trams are free within the city centre, the CBD. So as long as I stay within the city centre, I can just jump on and off, don't have to worry about paying. But I want to go further than that, so I got to figure out this public transport. I believe the Melbourne tram network is actually the largest tram network of any city in the world. Walking around, I can definitely see it's much more extensive than the Sydney one. Of course, it's been operating for decades now. Sydney Light Rail is still very new, like within the last 5 years only, and it's still being built, a lot of it, whereas the Melbourne tram network is much more matured, much more established, and it's free in the centre. So Melbourne definitely outdoes Sydney in terms of the tram, but then Sydney Metro is an absolute game changer. It's going to be very tough for Melbourne to beat Sydney Metro. They did a very good job up there. Yeah, I believe coming from the airport yesterday on the Skybus, I went across that bridge. Similar to Sydney, I have not planned this trip much at all. I did have a gander on Google Maps last night to actually just get a feel for the area, sort of know where I'm walking, and yeah, just wrote down a list of interesting places to go and see. So yeah, we'll go walk around, start ticking off some of those places that I want to check out. I'm thinking of trying out a croissant place which allegedly have the best croissants in the world. Melbourne is world renowned for its cafes, coffee culture, pastries, so on and so forth, so I'll definitely have to give that a try. Another thing to mention is that Melbourne is ranked as the most livable city in Australia, and for a few years it was ranked as the most livable city in the world. It's since lost that title. That goes now to Vienna, but yeah, it's still up there. It's the most livable city in Australia, which honestly I'm quite skeptical of, because my questions are, well, how do you really measure livability? Really, within Australia, Sydney and Melbourne are the two big cities around a similar size, so you can't really compare it to other cities. They're in a different league, so I'll give it a fair comparison. But yeah, honestly I'm quite skeptical of these livability rankings. How do you really measure it? It's what's livable for me might not necessarily be livable for you. Yeah, I'm skeptical of this livability rankings. I'll look more into it as I continue exploring. I'll share what I think about Melbourne's status as allegedly the most livable city in Australia and allegedly one of the most livable cities in the world. Right, let's figure this damn thing out. Purchase. And that's it, we've got ourselves a Mikey pass. Pretty easy actually with that machine. Loaded $25 on it, just used some of my spare cash. There's the metro. It's the front of Flinders Street Station. We'll probably come here later on when I take the metro or go somewhat further. But for now, I want to find that croissant place that I was talking about that I saw on the map. It's called Loon Croissanterie. Somewhere around here, I'm going to find that. And yeah, there's also one of those famed graffiti alleys nearby, so I'll also have a look at that. You can see the sign there. We're in the free tram zone, so yeah, even though I was on the tram, I haven't had to tap on or pay anything yet. Somewhere around here is one of the famous graffiti alleys. Fortunately, that croissanterie shop, the best one in the world. I'm not even joking, like I was reading reviews online and apparently it is ranked as the best croissanterie in the world. I'm just saying what I've read and what I've been told. But yeah, anyway, that's closed today. It's only open Saturday, Sunday and Monday, so yeah, I just missed out when I arrived yesterday, unfortunately, so it won't be open until Saturday. And yeah, the immigration museum I walked past, that's opened at 10, so it's still like an hour until then, so I'll have to find somewhere else to eat. So I'm just walking towards Federation Square and other parts in the center. See over there, they're building the new metro, digging the tunnels. This must be one of the, it'll probably be one of the big stations. And over here we have Cathedral. St. Paul's Cathedral. Captain Matthew Flinders, navigator. Matthew Flinders was both an outstanding navigator and experienced seaman, having apprenticed to the notorious Captain William Bligh. Together with George Bass, Flinders circumnavigated Tasmania, then thought to be part of the mainland in the ship Norfolk. He explored much of the eastern coastline, often by boat, but it is best remembered for having successfully circumnavigated and mapped Australia for the first time in 1803. The voyage began in 1801. The colonial imperative of this task was a fear that the French would claim part of the continent. The artist Charles Webb Gilbert was responsible for a number of important commissions in Australia and overseas. He has been described as a natural carver and modeler, and this piece is probably his most imaginative thing, the prow. Two sailors as the base for heroic flinders. He suddenly died 1 month before the sculpture's unveiling. Finally found a decent cafe. Axel Coffee Roasted. I ordered one of Melbourne's most iconic coffees. It's called a Magic. That's what they call it. I just asked them what's the best Melbourne coffee, and they said Magic. So yeah, that's this one. And a chocolate hazelnut croissant, and an almond croissant, my favorite. So I'll try that, see how good it is. Moment of truth. We are coming up on what I believe is one of the famous graffiti alleys. Just a minute walk from the cafe, a few minutes walk from Flinders Street Station. Alright, yep, I can see it. Bada bim! Bada boom! Tourist Central. Melbourne's famed graffiti alleys. There are certain designated lanes within the city where it's actually legal to do graffiti. I don't know what the exact process is with permits or that, but this here, for example, is 100% legal within this part of the city. There was a gang of people around the corner. Don't fancy wandering into that. Sketchy. And Hosea Lane, for those of you wondering. Graffiti alley ticked off. Melbourne cafe experience ticked off. I'm not much of a coffee drinker. I much prefer my tea, although that coffee was very nice. After the fitful, restless night that I had, definitely needed that coffee. And yeah, the croissants, I'll gladly say, I did try a croissant place in Sydney. I'll confidently say these croissants were better than the ones they had in Sydney. So Melbourne definitely beats Sydney in terms of coffee culture and cafes. I will confidently say that. You can see, compared to Sydney, Melbourne's tram network is absolutely massive. Like all these different lines, it's an absolute maze. You can go pretty much anywhere with it. I'd say next I'd like to make my way to St. Kilda, go to the beach. It's a hot day, might as well have a swim. This here is a map of the free tram zones, and it's only the very center of the city. And from there, once you get out of all these areas, then you have to start paying. From the free tram zone, I've just come to Queen Victoria Markets, where the most famous market here in Melbourne, and if not one of the most famous markets in Australia. So I'm not really planning on buying anything, but we'll still walk through, have a look if anything catches our eye. Pretty much a bit of everything here, some gardening equipment.
Yeah.
Car seat covers. Not the black time. What do you say? What do you say? Myself a nice locally made hat. Alright, I've been wandering around this construction site here right next to the markets, trying to find the John Batman Memorial. That's where my GPS kept guiding me into here, but I can't go in there obviously. John Batman was the founder of Melbourne, and I wanted to go and investigate the memorial because recently there was a group of vandals that actually destroyed the statue of the founder of Melbourne.
A statue honouring the founder of modern-day Melbourne has been destroyed shortly after 2 a.m. this morning. Vandals ripped the John Batman monument from its plinth by Queen Victoria Market and seemingly sawed it in half. Crews arrived at the site around 9:30 a.m. to remove the fallen statue with a crane and bring it to a secure location. A memorial for soldiers who died in World War I was also defaced in Melbourne overnight, protesters covering it in red paint and writing "Land back."
Ignorant fools who are completely clueless as to anything to do with history. It's just, I don't know, I really just hate that behavior of just tearing down historical monuments, and those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And Victoria and Melbourne, unfortunately, it seems to have quite a few of these crazies. At the same time, they went and defaced and put graffiti on several war memorials. It's just absolutely sickening. Like, these sort of people, I have no respect or sympathy for any of them. Like, I'm interested in going places, learning the history in a respectful manner, actually like listening, learning, taking the environment in, and just want to show the history for what it is, for good or bad. There's good history, there's bad history. It doesn't matter. We have to preserve it, we have to remember it, we have to learn from the lessons of the past. But these sort of people that do things like that, tearing down statues, it's just, yeah, really does make you wonder. All this woke nonsense has gone on long enough. No sympathy for these people. They need to be prosecuted. It's just tearing down history. It should not be tolerated. RMIT University building. I'm getting pretty close to the Melbourne Museum now, so I'm going to go in there, get inside some AC, because it is absolutely boiling. It's starting to really heat up. It's 11 a.m. The hottest part of the day, I'm going to want to find somewhere indoors in AC. It's way too hot to just walk out here. It's funny, in the morning with it being so overcast, it didn't feel like it would get so hot, but oh, that sun is just absolutely burning. Alright, made it to Carlton Gardens. Somewhere up here is meant to be the Melbourne Museum, so we'll go have a look at that. try and get in some shade, some AC. Royal Exhibition Building. Oof, man, I could almost have a swim in here. I will say Melbourne does seem to have more in the way of cultural sites and like built up landmarks, if you get what I mean. I mean, Sydney has that as well. You gotta agree, like Sydney Harbour, the natural beauty surrounding Sydney is better than Melbourne. I mean, you've got to admit that. So what Melbourne lacks in terms of natural beauty, it makes up for in terms of its built up area. So I can definitely see the appeal of, say, old buildings like this and just, wow, look at this. Just absolutely massive. Okay, this building's under renovation. I think this is the Royal Exhibition building. The museum is over here. So far I've not had to pay for any public transport because I've stayed within the free tram zone, and apart from that just been walking around. Okay, I've scrapped the museum idea. Absolutely massive lineup, so I don't fancy standing there waiting for an hour just to get in. Maybe you'll check it out another day now that I know where it is. Try to get in early. So I'm going to go walk to the State Library of Victoria. It's only a short distance from here. Rest inside the AC a little bit and yeah, plan our next move. This is the site of Melbourne in 1836, Yarra River. And then Melbourne in 1905. Gonna take the tram to St Kilda. First time leaving the free tram zone.
This stop is Armstrong Street. Stop 138.
Some of these old trams don't even have working AC, so all the windows are open. It's like a sauna in here. Alright, we're getting close to St Kilda. Ferris wheel operating. Pretty dead around here, I guess. A lot of people are probably at home, indoors. When the sun's not shining directly on you, when it's a bit overcast like this, like, it's alright. I won't say it's tolerable, but you can manage. So a beach and some flats here. Docklands. Captain Cook statue. Surprised this one's still standing. It's alright, it's not half bad. I mean, it's nothing compared to the beaches in Sydney or places like Gold Coast, but still, it's nice enough. I mean, Melbourne compared to other parts of the country, it's for much more of the year, it's not really the ideal climate and atmosphere for being out on the beach, but on a hot day like this, I mean, who can resist? Ooh, that water is nice and cool. One positive aspect of a beach like this not being, I mean, totally out of this world is that it doesn't draw those extreme crowds that you would see at, say, Bondi. I mean, on a boiling hot day like this, a lot of people are probably just staying inside on aircon. I mean, they don't want to risk getting sunburned. But yeah, I mean, St Kilda, it's good for what it is. Can't complain, really. In Port Phillip Bay. Whew. Oh, cool off nicely. Oh, that was much needed. Walking around today, sitting on that tram, I was just drenched in sweat. So it's nice to be in here. And water temperature is much cooler compared to any of the beaches at Sydney. Really great to cool off on a scorching hot day like this. It's a pretty small beach. Doesn't really seem to go on for all that long. I'm sure there's other great spots along Port Phillip Bay. Compared to, say, Bondi Beach, it's also much safer to swim here in this bay because it's somewhat enclosed. There's not really any strong currents or anything. There isn't even any flags to swim in between. I can't even see any lifeguards. I'm sure there is some around. In that sense, it's much calmer. This is a much more relaxed vibe. Although Melbourne's beaches may not compare to Sydney's in natural beauty, it has its own appeal. Like, I like the more quiet, calm, tranquil feel. It doesn't feel overly like a tourist trap like, say, Bondi. So yeah, not bad. Overall, I would still say, okay, Sydney has better beaches, you gotta give it to them, but that's not to say that Melbourne is bad in terms of beaches. And Melbourne technically has a temperate oceanic climate. So generally speaking, it's much cooler compared to Sydney, or especially Gold Coast, Brisbane, where I'm from. But yeah, 4 seasons in one day definitely does ring true. You get the extreme scorching summer days like today, and yeah, followed by a cool reprieve, and we'll probably experience that tomorrow. See the city in the back there. That's where we came from, all the way down this way. Nice areas up there for swimming as well. I'll come down this way again, go further down. There's Brighton Beach, I'll check that out.
Sometimes, particularly in Australia, it's like that was quite unfortunate because, you know, many people didn't view themselves as Japanese anymore, you know. However, they did leave some journal entries about their time over here, and of course the upside is once the end of 2005 themselves, but then also trying to understand the culture that's around identifying themselves. It's got a whole range of different emotions in this film, from funny to, you know, for example, trying to understand the culture of Australia and lingo.
That's the Immigration Museum done. Very interesting place. Very interesting to learn about more of the history of, since even before it started being settled by Europeans and was transformed into its modern form. One of the key things that stood out to me is the question, what does it mean to be Australian? For those of you who are new to the channel and haven't been following me for a while, I come from a migrant background. Both my parents migrated to this country before I was born. My mom's from Austria, my dad's from Sri Lanka, so I have mixed heritage. but I was born and raised in Australia. When it comes to my identity, I 100% consider myself Australian. I was born and raised in the Gold Coast in the southeast Queensland region, so I fully consider myself Australian today. Even though I definitely have cultural influences from my parents. I've been to both Australia and Sri Lanka, and my heritage is an important part of my identity, but at the same time, you know, Australia is my home. I was born and raised here. I'm grateful for the opportunities that it's afforded me. But overall, I'm much more familiar with Australia than I am with either Austria or Sri Lanka. So I identify much more with this country than either of those, even though that's where my heritage stems from. In the future, I 100% do want to travel back to Austria and Sri Lanka, as well as other countries from which I can draw my heritage. But I consider myself Australian above all else. It's my home, it's where I was born. And yeah, there's really nothing else to say about that. So the whole question on what it means to be Australian, it's like, I believe every group of people has a right to self-determination, to preserve their own culture. Countries like Australia are honestly a bit of a unique category because it's so mixed. You have the whole history of indigenous peoples, you have European settlers, and yeah, really in the last few decades you have people migrating here from all across the world. So Australia has now become this huge melting pot. Like, I'm just stating facts here. So yeah, that's sort of my views on it. It's an interesting question. What does it mean to be Australian? Those are my thoughts on the topic. Yeah, it's almost 4 p.m. now. I'll look for somewhere else to eat, because I haven't had anything since those croissants. I was in the museum less than an hour, and in that hour the temperature literally dropped 15 degrees. I'll put the conversion on the screen, but that's crazy. Like, that's absolutely wild. Man, with this breeze, with it cooling off like this, it's like, man, I can handle it now. It's beautiful, beautiful weather. Absolutely spectacular. Tomorrow's going to be a nice cool day. We're getting hit by a southerly bluster. Wind coming up from the Southern Ocean. The wind direction has turned, so spectacular. Now I actually have energy again. I can walk around without just being all So this is what they mean when they say Melbourne experiences 4 seasons in one day, because literally in an hour we've dropped 15 degrees. And it's all like overcast, and it looks like it looks more bleak, and it probably looks almost like it could rain. Starting to get some raindrops. I was right. I could smell that in the air. Like, suddenly it's just this cool, moist air. Alright guys, this is me back in the hostel room. No one else is in here. Yeah, as you can see, compared to the Sydney YHA, it's much smaller. Small room, and they fit 6 bunks in it. It's these old metal frame bunks. Compared to the Sydney YHA, this is definitely a step down. My bunk up here, I slept up here. Every slight movement, like, it creaks and shakes. Doesn't feel the most sturdy. Yeah, even the person underneath, if they move, it's like, oh, yeah, you hear everything basically. The walls also are pretty thin, so you can hear things in the rest of the hostel. We've got more lockers here. I did bring my own padlock actually this time. Don't know how, but I lost it at the airport. Like, I have not been able to find it since I got here. But yeah, I got the top bunk here. There were 5 other guys here last night. Now it looks like there's only 1 guy left. All the other bunks are pretty fresh. But I'm staying here the next 3 nights. All you have is a small fan on the wall up there. It does absolutely nothing. And yeah, you have this window here. Yeah, you can open this like that slightly, but yeah, it opens out pretty much nothing. Like, there's no breeze that can really get in through here, being in between all these buildings. It does feel very nice out there though. It's cooled off nicely, so hopefully it won't be so bad in here this next night. So yeah, the mattress is just, like, you can see it moves, it creaks. It's just, they had this thick doona. Like, I didn't use a blanket at all. You can see it's like, this mattress is not very comfortable either. Like, yeah, my back's aching after that last night on there. So it's, yeah, gonna be roughing it a bit the next few nights. I did actually look out of curiosity at other hostels, but given it would be booking last minute, it would all be significantly more expensive. And yeah, like, I've already paid for 4 nights here. It's like cheap deal, like $45 a night. I don't want to pass that up. Like, the cheapest I could find for booking, say today, even tomorrow, is like $70-80 for a night. So yeah, I'm not keen to do that. I'll just rough it out. Like, bathrooms are a little bit better than the other YHA. They do provide shampoo, which is nice. Apart from that, I'm sorry, this hostel sucks. I won't be leaving a positive review from it. The main deal breaker is no air conditioning. Come on, we're in the middle of summer. No air conditioning. I mean, this is Melbourne. Sure, in general it has a cooler climate, but come on, you know Melbourne, it gets these scorching hot days like we've been having. It's just ridiculous not to have AC, just this thing. A nice cold shower, some fresh clothes on, and we'll be refreshed for the night and for more adventures tomorrow. I'll see you all in the next one. Ciao.